Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome back to Soultober. And today's vlog, I've wanted to talk about this since this channel was born, maybe even before that. I have this strong, set-in-stone psychological mindset about myself that objectivity doesn't exist, and subjectivity should be used for all reviews. And I've made a video covering this topic before. It's called Why I Use Subjectivity, and in that video I described, art is about feeling and we shouldn't use these metrics to describe art. And before I keep going, I want to clearly define what is objectivity and what is subjectivity. Now, if I were to watch a movie and review it, and I reviewed it based on how much I liked it, what I thought was good, and base my score upon that. Maybe I like that movie because, I saw it with my mom at a young age and we bonded over it, and that's why I like that movie. Then, objectivity is where you would say, this movie is good because of the prior rules that we have set up as good follow with this movie. The direction, the camera angles, these examples in the movie all point to it being good. Everything that it does, from the screenwriting to all the other little tips and tricks, are good based upon the ideas of society that has been set as good. And I'll use an example. Let's talk about Dragon Ball Z. I remember I got into an argument about Dragon Ball Z with my good friend Matt from Anime Blitz, Art of Anime. He was also in on the conversation, and the conversation went along the lines of, Matt thought objectively Dragon Ball Z would be like a 7 out of 10, and I said, well, it's a 10 out of 10 for me, so it doesn't really matter. And if I were to objectively review Dragon Ball Z, I would give it probably like a very, very low score, because Dragon Ball Z is a Japanese cartoon that's 300 episodes long. And most people say the best arc of Dragon Ball Z is the one that takes forever and there's a bunch of nonsensical talking for this like 30 episode fight. That's what people say is the best thing about Dragon Ball Z. It's my favorite fucking anime ever, but I'm saying that subjectively. If I were to review it objectively, I would say, it's too long. The animation at the time or even now, it's mixed, good or bad. There's filler, etc. I like the filler. What if I want a long show? What if I come from a reality where every show is like 1,000 episodes long and I expect every show to be 1,000 episodes, and I look at Dragon Ball Z, I'm like, 300 episodes? Fuck that shit, that is objectively bad. They couldn't even put in the work of 1,000 episodes. And the average person, by the way, won't like Dragon Ball Z. It's 300 episodes long, it's in Japanese, a language most people don't speak. So if I were to show that to the average person across the earth, most people are going to be like, I don't like this. I don't know what this is. Is that what we should base objectivity on? Based upon what the average person will think of this film, or what our idea of what the average person will think of this art piece? And you might say, oh, that's where the community comes in. That's where the anime community comes in and decides that's a good anime. That's where the video game community comes in and says that's a good video game, etc. That being said, the community changes all the time. Citizen Kane, which is supposed to be this beloved movie, was critically shit on when it first came out. And what if I watch a movie like Sharknado? Sharknado has a high-ass score on Rotten Tomatoes, and most people would say it's objectively shit. Critics like it. What if I enjoy getting drunk and watching Sharknado and having a good old time? I haven't seen Sharknado, but this is an example. Then what is good then? I'm enjoying it, everyone else is liking. What if the majority of the people on Earth enjoy this movie? Is it still objectively bad? Not to mention, people can't watch black and white movies nowadays. They can't watch movies without color. They have to hear it. Also, there are movies, in the silent age where you couldn't hear the things. Graphics in video games change all the time. Anime, the quality of the art differs all the time. By today's standards, if you put out a silent movie with grain over the shit and people couldn't watch it, they'd be like, fuck this movie. Does that mean it's objectively bad? Are we basing that upon the time frame of when they came out now? And I get it. The purpose of objective reviews is to point the review at the audience and kind of give an idea of how they will interact with it. For instance, if you watch a review of a video game that you're thinking about purchasing, you watch it, and you might base your purchase around what that reviewer says. But that's fine. But what if I already played that video game? Then obviously I'm going to come at it an entirely different viewpoint. Or what if I watch a movie, and this is the movie like that got me into like superhero movies or like horror movies? What if I like watch a movie and oh, that's the movie I like took like my first date out on? What if like that was the last movie I watched before I died? Obviously, I'm going to have a completely different bias. Even if I'm trying to be objective, I'm going to have a bias. And you have a bias. You have a bias. I don't like when people try to pretend like, oh, I'm going to go into this movie without a bias. I can guarantee as a 20-year-old male straight who lives in the United States, I have a complete viewpoint on the world and society and everything else than probably most other people on the planet. If I'm a 50-year-old gay Asian woman who is fucking blind, obviously I'm not gonna review things the same way that, you know, I do or you do. By the way, all our senses are like at least probably a little bit different. The way things are communicating from our body to our brain, you know, interpreting our perception is differently. People taste things and they think it's good or bad, and they might think it's good or bad for different reasons. If I'm deaf, I probably won't even enjoy music, obviously. Or how about if I'm drunk? My senses are obviously all different, but what if the director intended, remember that movie High School with Snoop Dogg and Wiz Khalifa? They literally said, our intention for you is to be high while watching this movie. Do I have, like, if I'm a straight edge reviewer, can I not review that movie? If I'm only allowed, like, if the intent is for me to literally be under a different mindset, I'm trying to avoid. If I'm supposed to be high, then the author's intention, which is supposed to be this golden key rule about how we review things, then obviously the viewers who are watching it high and the guy who made it are on this complete different level of intention than an average person watching that movie. And guys, I used to be an objective reviewer. I used to believe in this weird tug-of-war system we had with every art piece where we just kind of yelled and screamed what was good and bad until, you know, we finally found a place for it somewhere. I remember making a review of Sonic Adventure 2 and I gave it like a 6.5 because I thought objectively it's not that good. But that was a game I grew up on. That was a game that my grandmother gave to me as a gift. I still own that copy. It's a prized possession of mine. And every time I hear the rolling around at the speed of sound, I'm happy. Like, I'm happier playing that game than I am probably your average video game. Probably not because author's intent or the physical, like, time and effort and all the other things that make things objectively good, but for a completely different reason. And if I were to review that game today, obviously I'm not going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's one of my favorite games, simply for the sake of how much joy it brings me. Of course, I'm going to give that a fucking 9, 8, 10 out of 10 just for those feelings it gives me. And if you're an objective reviewer, like, what's more entertaining, to make a subjective review where you actually get to put yourself in it and you get to explain why it makes you feel a type of way, you get to challenge yourself and press the buttons inside yourself psychologically and try to define what that piece of art is? Or is it more fun to just cook and, you know, mechanically create this review that's simply, you know, using methods to create a number and to robotically say why it's good. No, you should be subjective. Put yourself in that review. If you think objectively the graphics are so good, and you can say that in your objective review, or you can say, man, when I looked at this cliffside in this section of this video game, the graphics were so amazing, I had to stop myself and just look around for 2 minutes. Every time I looked at this game, my eyes were just popping. I love just staring at this thing. Like, that's probably more entertaining for the viewer as well. So just say that. Again, art is all about communication and emotion. An alien, the universe, God, whatever, none of that cares about objectivity. Objectivity is a human-created thing. They don't care about objectivity. The universe, if anything, probably doesn't give a shit about anything art-related, give a shit about anything moral. It doesn't give a shit if one person on this planet decided to nuke everybody. It doesn't give a shit. Morally, it doesn't exist. Morals, objectivity, subjectivity, these are all human perceptions. And when you try to create objectivity and act like that humanness isn't there, you're just in an endless circle. You are literally using a human-created thing to negate the humanness of the art. Objectivity is used to boil down all these separate opinions, all these separate ideas, and kind of come to this conclusion about something. But what's good is changing all the time. There is no good. What are good graphics? What are good art styles? What are good storytelling techniques? Because every day there's going to be something that's completely different that everybody else likes. Let's say, for instance, you only watched color movie or black and white movies, and that was your thing. You always watched them, and then someone made a color movie, and you're like, that's bullshit. But everyone loves the color movies, even if the community and the critics or whoever the fuck only insists on black and white movies. If you're a color movie, everybody on the planet likes it, minus those motherfuckers. Is that what's good now? Here's a better example. What if, as a society, we just hated the color green? And I just realized I'm standing in front of a green screen, making this a song. Whatever. What if we as a society, we all just hated the color green? We all, 100% as a society, decided the color green is gross. Get rid of that shit. And then, one day, an alien comes down in a green spaceship with green skin, and he's like, yo, my entire planet's green. I love green. Do we change what is the consensus? Do we change the idea of objectively, do we change, is green objectively, good to some people, bad to some people? Or is it no, that person's a minority. All the other billions of people on this planet still hate the color green. That's the truth. That is truth. Green is bad. But what if that alien teleported Earth onto a big-ass green planet with 900 billion people on it, and suddenly we're the minority? Suddenly green is the coolest fucking color to be around. Is our opinion negated all of a sudden? No. All that matters is what do you think of the color green? All you have is stimulus. That's all you have. You decide what is good or bad within your world, because that's all you can control. You have good stimulus, you have bad stimulus. You can decide, I like that stimulus, I don't like that stimulus. That's a good movie, that's a bad movie. No one else, none of their opinions matter. There is no objectivity, it doesn't exist. Enjoy what you enjoy, explain why you enjoy it, and maybe it'll make for an interesting video.